you established will be a hard one to match for.
I don't know if they'll wear a costume, but
Do we have the
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Chair Skay?
Here.
Vice Chair Bill de la Pena?
Here.
Director Berger?
Here.
Director Fox?
Here.
Director Jacobson?
Here.
We have the public comments on this part of the agenda. We have a card from Mr. Dave. And we have a new system. If you go to the podium, you can turn on the mic yourself.
Push, that's probably it. Okay, is this working? I have a pretty loud voice, so I guess I'll be all right. Okay, good evening, Cosca board members. My name is Dave Hutworth, and I live in Newbury Park. I'm here today to discuss the conceptual plan for the 326-acre Rancho Potrero property. I know that's not on the agenda today, but I wanted to provide some feedback since some discussions are occurring about alternative plans, and I also have a request to make at the end. Several of us attended the CRPD board meeting last week to discuss the project, and I won't repeat that feedback tonight. I promised Kristen that I'll only take 5 minutes, and so I'll stick to my notes. About 2 weeks ago, the CRPD board and city council received a letter from my homeowner association, the Haciendas, which is located directly across from the 326-acre property. Ms. Gay, I left a copy at the check-in desk. You already have it. Okay. My apologies for not including you on the original distribution list. We just sent it to the City Council and the CRPD board. So while that feedback is from the Haciendas neighborhood, I think it captures quite accurately a lot of the feedback that was provided at the July 2nd workshop meeting, which I attended. Since the workshop, I got pretty concerned about this project, and I've talked to over 100 people, including many people who board horses at the equestrian center. I have 2 horses myself at an English riding equestrian center in the area. I've also talked to hikers in the park, and I've also talked to many residents in that area. I think the letter is very similar to the feedback that I've heard from all those conversations. Clearly the main issue of concern with the conceptual plan is building a road that cuts into the park, building a large parking lot on the scenic Olympia Farm site, and having cars and buses drive right next to trails as people are on their hikes or horse rides, and of course building a noisy 200-person pavilion all in the middle of peaceful equestrian and hiking trails. We've been told the pavilion might be reservable and might be used for private parties with potentially barbecues, alcohol, music. It's not clear. I think the overwhelming opposition is clear to putting that kind of high intensity and high volume activity in this area, which is a rural area, and I think most people feel it would ruin the peaceful equestrian and hiking park that the city is spending millions of dollars to create. So I find it hard to believe that that would be a plan that gets approved, but it's still being considered. So I said I wouldn't repeat all of last week's feedback, so I'll move on to the main point that I wanted to make tonight. I'm very concerned about the feedback, whether the feedback from all the focus groups, meetings, and the workshop has been effectively communicated to the public as well as to the CRPD board and to the City Council, and I have a request to make on that at the end. I have 4 major communication concerns, and Jim Friedel was kind enough to send me a public document that is a summary of the feedback from the workshop, and I'll start with that. First, I understand the workshop feedback was provided to the CRPD board, but I'm not sure if it's been provided to City Council. We have kind of a bunch of emails going around to try to figure that out. I think that is important feedback and should go to both bodies. That's not a major issue, but that's just one point. Second, the workshop summary was a long 4-page list of bullet point items from all the flip charts as everyone was throwing out ideas. Unfortunately, that summary didn't include any overall statements that provided any meaning or context to how the workshop went. It didn't say anything that a significant majority of the 60 people opposed this road and parking lot and pavilion. So I think you deserve more information and better information than that 4-page list of bullet points. Third, I think this list can actually be quite misleading. I don't know how much that's being used to gauge the community's feedback, but if 20 people said they opposed the pavilion, the 200-person pavilion, and one said they liked it, which is probably pretty close to the ratio, I think, because I was at the meeting, that would both show up as one bullet point for each perspective. So there's really no context provided in that summary, and I think it should be communicated better. And many of the bullet points actually were in opposition, and they were put elsewhere in the document. So the opposition section only shows like 5 or 6 bullet points when that's hardly representative of what the feedback really was at that community meeting. Fourth and last point, to my knowledge, no public document has yet been created that summarizes the 4 focus group meetings. Those were very important meetings with 10 or so selected members of the community, very well-respected individuals. Maybe that summary is in progress. I don't know. I've talked at length with 3 of the people who were on the focus group, and 2 of them presented with me to the CRPD board last week. And all but the feedback from the people at the focus group was that, you know, all but one person had pretty serious objections and concerns with the road and parking lot and pavilion for 200 people at the Olympia Farm site. So I think that needs to be communicated. They all said they expected their comments would become public record, and maybe that's in the process of being done. So I basically wanted to make a point that I think it should be done. This is a very important project to many of us in the community. Each participant at the focus group, as I understand, kind of gave at the end of the meeting kind of their summary, final comments and thoughts. That alone would be a pretty good document, but hopefully more of all the meetings will be captured. So my request to Ms. Gay, as the public representative of Cosca, and maybe I should ask this to somebody else, but I would like to ask you to ask Cosca staff if they're working on a summary to those focus group meetings. I believe from what Jim told me, Cosca made the summary of the workshop, so I was just kind of assuming maybe it would be Cosca's role to summarize those focus group discussions. And if nobody is working on that, I think it should be requested of them. Or maybe even Kristen can request that of her staff. I'm not quite sure. So once a summary like that is provided, I think that would be very valuable to everyone to know what this respected body, what their feedback was. And I think that would be useful to the CRPD board and to the City Council in deciding what to do with this matter once it becomes in front of them. So that's pretty much it, and I'm just not quite sure if there's a formal way of making a request to have.
We've heard your concerns, Mr. Howard. Thank you very much.
Okay.
And Mr. Friedel may have some comment.
Yeah, and I just wanted to, for the television audience, for Mr. Hetwer, the focus group was created by staff
to provide input to staff as it tried to reconcile and understand the idea of the conceptual plan that was created a couple years ago now. And so the work of the focus group was to help inform and educate staff in crafting a better detailed conceptual plan. Certainly we heard a lot of those comments, and the community meeting itself that was part of the process, those notes have been provided to the CRPD board and Mr. Hetworth are a public record. The feedback from the entire work of the focus group is something that will go to the committee that includes two CRPD board members, 2 council members. That was the original committee looking at the principles for ownership and helped come up with the conceptual plan. And at that committee meeting, we will include the focus group. So that is a new step in the process of ultimately annexing the property, which is not a step that we anticipated taking. We had intended to go right from the focus group meetings to a draft specific plan, and instead we're going to take basically another step, revisit with the committee and the focus group, and try to respond to a lot of the comments that we heard with perhaps even some alternatives that haven't been looked at yet. So it's an extra step in the process. I think we certainly will include the public throughout the process. So that's where we are.
Okay, so can I ask a question, or is that not protocol?
You've actually gone
I
way over
went past my 5 minutes. Okay, I appreciate your time.
I do have a comment to make in reference to perhaps some of the changes in the plan or the original plan as to how to go about this establishing this conceptual plan. Namely, if there is a departure in what was presented before to the community at large, whatever departure that may be, it is my sincerest hope that another community meeting will be held so that whatever alternative plan there may be will be presented to the public once again for public input, rather than just having a council committee and a focus group meeting away from the public eye. Whatever plan there is, it needs to be presented to the community at large in a community workshop.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Head. We will go on to our special presentation, Certificate of Appreciation from Valley Botanic Garden.
Thank you. Good evening, and hello to all the board members. This will come up a little bit later in the presentation, but I would like to present at this time from the Conejo Valley Botanic Garden. On behalf of the Board of Directors and members of the Conejo Valley Botanic Garden, this Certificate of Appreciation is presented to the Conejo Open Space Conservation Agency, whose members serve to preserve and protect our precious open space. And it's signed by our President, Gene Riley, and Beverly Bruni, myself.
I'd like to come forward and accept it on behalf of Cosca.
Sorry, I don't have your name on there.
This is for all of us. Thank you so much. Thank you very much.
Lights? Do you dim the lights for a presentation or not? Maybe it doesn't matter.
Name that flower. That's a Mariposa flower.
Everybody can see that. Okay.
You mean Matilla poppy, yeah. Okay.
Thank you for inviting us. We're very pleased to be here. We volunteers in this garden work very hard to get the word out that we're even there, because many people don't know we're there. And this presentation is geared to those of you who have been there, who've seen it before. Sorry about that. Some of it will be a repeat. And those of you in the audience who might like to know about the garden. We have some of our volunteers here tonight, Barbara and Gary Song, and Joseph Scarpine, and my husband Bob. So we're glad that they're with us tonight. A little background: we were organized in 1973. That's way over 30 years ago. We are on 33 acres in the heart of Thousand Oaks. We're adjacent to the Conejo Community Center and Park, managed by volunteers, underlined volunteers. That's who we are. Developed as funds become available, and under the terms of the lease, the garden entrance is free. We'd like to tell you what we give to this community. We give a place to enjoy nature and wildlife, and sometimes we see a little wildlife, like that little tiny frog. This scene is in the Children's Adventure Garden. We learn about horticulture. This is a very well-known rare fruit grower who's giving a lecture on rare fruit, which also is located, a rare fruit orchard is in the garden. This label in the top corner, the deer grass, we have in the kids' garden a zoo garden where all the plants have animal names. We have bird of paradise, deer grass, kangaroo paw, things like that. The Kids Adventure Garden has a wonderful tree house. It's a very popular thing for the children. Some of them go up there several times while they're visiting our garden. We have tours, and we have a solar-powered elephant in the lower corner. It's powered by a solar panel on the top of the mobile home. Water comes out of the trunk and recirculates. We teach the kids about the environment. We have a little pond fish. They're not salmon or anything, but they're little mosquito fish, but that doesn't matter. The children love it. In the bottom right-hand corner, we have a sample of our carnivorous plant section. Many little boys come in and said, "Where are the Venus flytraps?" That's where they are. We have a junior master gardener program that takes place once a week and during the school year. The children learn about horticulture, and then they decide what to plant and how to plant, and they take care of it. And this is their garden. There are 6 of these plots for them next to our mobile home. You'll notice the cages. One of our problems are the canaos. We have many tours in the garden clubs. Arizona garden clubs came in 3 vans to tour gardens in California, and ours was one of them. And the California garden clubs visited our garden a year and a half ago, and they planted a tree in honor of the firefighters. Children, we have many tours in the spring of grade schools, and we take them through the garden. We take them into the kids' garden and also into the main garden. We have beautiful plants. The red bud tree you see is blooming, the pink, and some of the others. The white is a cactus. One of our main features, we think, and I'll talk more about this later, is the 1 mile nature trail that goes around the mountain. And this is how it looks. How do you like that? With the, is that mine not coming through?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Also, in this garden, you have an opportunity to purchase plants. We have a nursery, and we have plant sales once a month. Many groups perform community service in our garden. Scout groups, trail days, high school volunteers are some of the examples of that. And the Boy Scouts are able to accomplish their Eagle Scout projects in our garden. The top right, this young man built 2 of those benches at the very top, and if you've been to the garden, you know that's where the view is of the whole Conejo Valley. The arch below that are 2 in the butterfly garden, and on the left are tables in our kids' garden where we have our yearly big plant sale, and the Girl Scout did her gold award in our garden. This is a map of the 33-acre garden. The colored areas are the specialty gardens, what we call the developed gardens, such as the bird habitat, the salvia garden, the cactus garden, Australian, and so forth. And those colored spots then are represented by these photos. We have an herb garden, bird habitat, and the cactus garden. You'll see a lot of rocks in our garden and a lot of little walls. Because we are built on a hill, we have to make steps and ups and downs and hold the soil back. So that's why you see this, but it actually gives a nice look to it. These are some of the cactus in our cactus garden in the bloom. The rare fruit orchard has many unusual fruits: sapote, cherimoya, persimmon, and these are only a few of what we have. That's a photo of the rare fruit orchard. We had a man in his mid-80s who cared for that garden, and you can see how meticulous it is. He came every Saturday morning and worked there. He's moved to San Diego, and it broke his heart. He really misses us. And we miss him. These are two of our volunteers, Lillian in the white and Sylvia behind. This is called Lillian's Meadow because these two ladies who are, I'm pointing out the ages of some of these people because this is the point I want to make, 84 years old, both of them. They come every, I think, 3 days a week and work out in the morning in that garden. It's their life, especially Sylvia. Volunteers, that's our important product there. We maintain and groom the garden, arrange for development projects, attend to administrative functions, and serve as docents. We do it all. Who are these volunteers? We have officers and directors. We meet once a month. We have our morning crew, who, as I said, are faithful Monday, Thursday, Friday volunteers. And that's probably our littlest volunteer up in the left-hand corner there. This was during trail days a couple of years ago. The lady on the right with her 3 children has come many times when we have big cleanup days to help. She believes in having her children participate in the community. So we give them an opportunity to do that. When we get a little bit ahead, we get a grant or something, we do fun things. We built the porch and the railing on the mobile home. We have an overhead, a patio roof, paid for, by the way, by the Westlake Village Garden Club. We have delivery of what we call the skull, made out of one big piece of a eucalyptus tree, and the rock line path in the salvia garden. Our funding is done by grants, matching funds, in-kind, generous individuals, donation opportunities. We have bricks, trees, and benches that people can donate, and they get their name on these items. Membership dues. We have about 125 members. How many do you think we should have in a community like Thousand Oaks? Think about that. We should have thousands, not 100. And also, we have our plant sales, native and low water use plants. Once a year, we have the Matilaha Poppy Festival in May. This is funded gratefully by the city community events grant. We get a grant for that every year, which is very helpful to us. We also have a plant sale during that time. We have lectures, you can see in the lower left. Now we have music. We have a harpist, and this time we had a bagpiper. And we have a children's craft up in the right corner. Whoops. This was a dream come true a few years ago. Dr. Tom Maxwell was president or chairman of the recycling committee. I'm not saying that. Oh, there it is, Caneo Environmental League. And they disbanded after we no longer needed them because the trash people are picking up our recyclables, right? So they had some money, and of course they had to give it to a like organization, which we are, and so we received a check for about $33,000. Now, if you don't think that wasn't a boost to this struggling garden. Now, what we did with that money, we invested $25,000 of it, which we're not touching, because we felt we needed a foundation. And the rest, well, it's already built up almost to that full amount now. And the rest gave us a little cushion, so it was very helpful to us to have that money. When we do get funding, we recognize people in this outdoor kiosk. The names go in the center section on a tile, anything 500 and above, and we keep track and accumulate the amount. And then all names go on the right-hand side for 2 years of donors. And thanks to the CRPD, we have this wonderful donation box, and we do get some money, a little bit of donation there. These are some new projects in the Kids Adventure Garden. The new gate, it has hummingbirds on the gate. That was donated by an individual. The Westlake Village Garden Club paid for the rest of the iron fence. We got new double pane windows, which has made a wonderful difference in that office, and a new roof so we don't get wet inside anymore. So these were some major wonderful improvements that we did within the last couple years. Also, we upgraded the nursery, expanded it a third bigger than it was, and all new tables. When we prune our trees when we get a grant or some funds. This Trail of Trees project began in 2005 from a grant from from Principal Financial Group, and the funds were matched by Westlake Village Garden Club. I don't know how I've got that in there, Joseph. maybe if I just click it, it'll go away. I did something. Thank you. We started by having a road built down the center of the area. It's a large area. And thanks to the CRPD, they did that road for us, and that's strictly to deliver mulch down to that area. On the upper right, you can see one of the two pathways lined with rock, boulders, and then the wall down below. You can sit on that wall. And finally, by April of 2007, we planted 30 trees. The irrigation, it goes to each tree, and we take good care of them. So in August of this year, just a few weeks ago, we had a dedication of this Trail of Trees project. I believe we had about 100 people who came to that dedication. We gave certificates. The lower on the right, on the left side, is the principal financial group person, Justin Frisco, who came from San Diego to receive the certificate. They granted us $2,500, and that was matched by the Westlake Village Garden Club in the lower right, who matched it with $2,500. So that enabled us to develop this Trail of Trees. And, of course, the bagpiper and the scouts in the upper right. This shows we dedicated 2 trees, one to the Armed Forces of America and one to the law enforcement. And we recognized Cosca up in the right-hand corner. 2 of the park rangers were there that day. And in addition, there were 6 trees dedicated to individual servicemen and 4 to individuals. This a couple donated that tree in memory of their son. And then afterwards, we all walked the trail to see the trees. We also received a grant. I hope you don't think we're rich because I'm telling you about all these grants. But without them, we couldn't function. These are 3 of the master gardeners who've been wonderful helpers to us, and this was from a grant from California Garden Clubs. We extended the butterfly garden. I went on the internet to see what you all are about, and I found a few things that I'd like to point out. Cosca has been entrusted with the responsibility of preserving, protecting, and managing our open space resources in the Conejo Valley. Now we switch to the garden, the Botanic Garden, and our volunteers have been entrusted with the responsibility of preserving and protecting and managing open space resources in the Conejo Valley Botanic Garden. Okay? There are differences, though. Cosca is supported by the City of Thousand Oaks and the CRPD. The garden is not in the budget of any organization. Underline that. And the parallels are, we both are land which is essentially a natural, undeveloped state. I'm going to show you more about that in a minute. It gives refuge from urbanization for both people and wildlife. You saw the frog. It is an investment in the future. I think that's very important. A resource which appreciates in value for both people and wildlife, and it offers a safe, stable environment for all organisms. This is our nature preserve, again, the 33 acres. I show this map again. I don't have my pointer, but if you go to the top big blue spot, there's an A, and if you follow that to the left and all the way down the side, in the white area, and up to the orange part, that's the 1 mile nature trail. And that's what I'd like to tell you a little bit about now. We started...
Ask Beverly how much longer you need.
5 minutes?
Could you wrap it up a little
Sure.
faster than that?
These are some of the problems we had. Hills of mustard, again, scouts. This was not so open space, big logs in the creek and so forth. We called on the CRPD, Mr. Marchesano, to say, are we really doing the right thing? And he said, yes, indeed you are. And we are grateful what you've done for us, and you all know what you've done. I've said a lot of it along the way. To do this work, we've hired the Department of Juvenile Justice. We estimated there were 35 of these tall palm trees to be removed. They're invasive, and we tackled those last year. We've got most of them out, and these are the people who did it. This is one of the tall ash trees that was removed, and that shows you the size of the stumps. This is more of the debris that we cleaned up. A new trail was carved through the dense brush. These are all different scenes in one area, and they were all covered over by brush. So we felt now that we were ready for company. So these are some scenes along the creek, and this is a very poor picture, but I had to put Tom Hare in there because he came and walked with us through the garden one day. These are some of the Eagle Scout projects that have happened lately. Our needs and ambitions. Our primary need is to assure our survival by establishing a financial foundation. We need a full-time gardener. We strive to promote awareness of our garden. And as volunteers, we are committed to caring for what we consider to be the jewel of the Conejo Valley. I want to say here that we had another wonderful thing happen. One of our volunteers has generously offered to match donations for the next 6 months up to $50,000. So we're on a campaign to solicit funds for that generous offer. And we will also have an endowment fund, which some people like to donate to. So thank you for having us. And we'd like to invite you to the garden. We take you on a tour anytime if you arrange for it, and we'll show you how wonderful it is. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Bernay, and all the members of the Conejo Valley Botanic Garden Board and all your volunteers. You have indeed created a real gem in our city, and probably most people don't know it's there. They may see the signs. Maybe one thing you could do, Beverly, is just tell people the easiest way to get there. You come off Gainsborough and then follow the signs and park by the Conejo Valley Park.
I some brochures up to your desk there, but there are
Thank you. We do have brochures. And if anyone does want more information, you can check their website, which is www.conejogarden.org. So thank you very much, and I hope everyone goes to see the garden. Yes, Director Bill de la Pena has a comment.
Thank you. Really quickly, this garden has changed tremendously since I first visited it in 1995. I mean, it's
We think so. Thank you.
I mean, quite a bit.
We'd
It is
like that to be
beautiful. It is
appreciated.
beautiful. And this is perhaps just a suggestion to the staff handling our city's website and perhaps the Park District's website to perhaps offer a link to the botanical garden in case we don't have it already, so that residents and visitors who are looking for activities and other attractions can find it more easily.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. We will go to our minutes of the meeting of July 11th.
I'll move approval.
Any other, it's been moved and seconded. Any changes? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
No opposition. We'll now go to our new items, and this is very exciting. Mark, I'd like you to introduce our new Cosca manager, if you would.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It is my distinct pleasure to introduce Kristen Ford, seated to my right, as the new Cosca manager. Kristen comes to us from the state of Massachusetts, where she was Director of Land Protection for State Fish and Game. Prior to that, she worked as Land Policy Coordinator for the Massachusetts Executive Office of Environmental Affairs, and prior to that, with the Nature Conservancy. Ms. Ford has extensive experience in both land acquisition, conservation finance, as well as land stewardship. In fact, one recent project that she was involved in protected over 3,000 acres of land, involved over 200 parcels and over 100 property owners. So she's done some very exciting work in New England. Ms. Ford holds a bachelor's degree in earth science and environmental science from Dartmouth College. And she also holds a master's degree in geographic information systems from Boston University. So that just may come in handy. So on behalf of Cosca, I would like to welcome Kristen to the team. She's now been on board all of about 2 weeks.
Thank you. And Kristen, would you like to say a few words?
Oops, sorry. I wasn't prepared to say much, but I'm really thrilled to be working here and working for Cosca with such a great staff and such a great history. So I'm looking forward to working with the Cosca board in the future.
Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Okay. Let's then go to our 2007-2008 Cosca budget. Kristen, are you going to take that?
Thank you, Chair Skay and members of the board. On page 5 of your packet, page 7 of your packet, you will see the proposed 2007-2008 Cosca budget. The proposed budget integrates both the approved CRPD and city budgets for Cosca for the 2007-2008 fiscal year. Both of these budgets were approved in June of 2007. The proposed Cosca operating budget for fiscal year 2007-2008 is just under $1,327,000, which is shared 50-50 by the city and CRPD for an estimated contribution from each agency of $663,000. A detailed table of the budget is found on page 7. A total of $120,000 has also been budgeted for capital improvement projects. Beginning on page 8 of your packet is a detailed listing of all of the proposed capital improvement projects, which I will briefly review one by one. The first project, which is on page 8, budgeted for $8,000, is grading and fencing at the Lizard Rock Trail in Wildwood Park, which, if you can see it on this distant map, is right there. And there's a more detailed map on page 8 of your packet. The second project, budgeted at $66,000, is the installation of a shallow concrete crossing affecting about 25 feet of trail at Dos Vientos Community Park to alleviate drainage problems. This project is located here. The third project, budgeted at $10,000, is the replacement of the water line into Wildwood Canyon, which will replace the current old and deteriorating pipes. This project is located here. The fourth project, budgeted at $26,000, is the realignment of about a quarter mile of the Hidden Meadows Trail in the North Ranch open space to reduce the steep gradient that currently exists. This project is located here. And the fifth and final project, budgeted at $10,000, is tree pruning and installation of a fence line to better delineate the trail on the Southern California Edison power line parcel along Avenida de las Flores. And this project is located there. Therefore, staff recommends that the board approve the proposed 2007-2008 Cosca budget, and staff is available for questions.
Questions of Ms. Ford or a motion? Mr. Fox, I think you
Sure, I'll move for approval of the recommended budget 2007-2008 in the
Director De La Pena seconds. Discussion on the motion? Just say that it really seems like a fairly modest increase from last year's budget. And so there's no additional staff positions, or is there?
In the CRPD portion of the Cosca budget, there is a small amount which they have set aside for a potential 7th Ranger position. That position is not being filled at this time, but that is in the CRPD portion of the Cosca budget.
Okay. Thank you. No other discussion? All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposition or abstentions? Motion passes. Thank you very much. This should be an easy one. Our Board of Directors meeting schedule for 2008. Kristen?
Thank you, Chair Skay. On page 13 of your packet, you will find...
Chair Skay, I believe you have a speaker's card for item 6B.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Thank you.
Did I? Then perhaps we could rescind the motion and take the public testimony. Thank you very much. Yeah. Okay, yeah, we have Frank Greenway. I'm sorry, Mr. Greenway. Once we start talking budget, I'm afraid we get on a roll. And make sure that the little green light is on, if you would.
The little green light is on. This is a budget-oriented question, and I would like to strongly encourage Cosca to add a line item to the budget for the establishment of an accessibility element to the budget. This particular element will go beyond ADA requirements. It will take into consideration the needs of the community to access their open space, because it's such a wonderful thing, and it's not open to everybody. Now this, when I say beyond ADA, it will certainly include what ADA has, and hopefully ADA will come out with their outdoor requirements, which are in process. I have no idea of where that is right now. But at present, I'm sure most of you, not all of you, are aware that over the last year and a half, there's been an informal group meeting kind of below the radar that consisted of Mark Town, Ranger Glenn Kinney, Lauren Pluth, and myself. We identified 5 areas, mostly because they would be easy shots to make accessible. We were considering people who would use personal assistive devices such as wheelchairs and such as that. Now, I think you should think for a moment that industry presently is going beyond that, and people who do not require the use of a personal assistive device want them and are using them. Hand pedal trikes, Segways, they might even want their own power chair, a variety of things, and they want to use this to ease their use of open space. So that's why I don't want to limit it to just something that is ADA or ADA outside. You need to go beyond that. You'll find these terms coming about more and more in the near future. Personal mobility devices and electric personal assistive mobility devices. And they are going to be used. Now, we can use as a start what this informal group has, but we're going to have to get, I believe that we're going to have to get some type of group established, give it a name, that might help, so you've got somebody to recognize or blame, and come up with requirements, goals, so that these can be looked at and met. Of course, we can prioritize them as we already have. When Mark, for some reason, took a position of greater pay, more responsibility, and greater personal growth, we were somewhat challenged why someone would do that. So, who knows? But so things sort of came to a halt because there just wasn't anybody in Cosca. Everybody was overloaded. It just happens when a key person like that leaves. I have been on drive-arounds with Ranger Glenn Kinney, and I certainly appreciate what he did, and I appreciate the efforts that everyone has taken on this. We've made some steps. And the things that I have noticed is that when you come up to most areas, most trailheads, you see 2 things. You see a gate for vehicles, and you see a step over for horses. What does that stop? Anybody who can't step over. Now, that includes quite a number of people, and those are things that need to be addressed. Mark is aware of, and I know Lauren Pluth is, because we've been trading back and forth different gateways that would allow, let's say, someone who uses a wheelchair to get around to get through it, but not a motorbike. And when it gets right down to it, if somebody wants to get in there with a motorbike, he's going to get in there. He, she, whatever. So I would strongly encourage you to place some light, I am in the budget, to provide some amount of funding. I believe Mark and a couple of us could come up with some amount if that's necessary, but just to identify it for the time being would be adequate. I'm surprised that Cosca hasn't been approached by individuals or groups about the lack of any planned accessibility. And it's going to come about. It's going to get you. So that's why we started this informal group, which has made some progress and is a good starting point. Are there any questions?
Mr. Fox?
I guess my question would be maybe to Mr. Town. I too am surprised this is. We have a few colleagues on the board here that have been on Cosca longer than I have, but I don't remember that this issue has come up before. If it has, I certainly don't remember. My question would be is, do you have a number figure, or is there a particular reason why you still working on an evaluation before you bring a recommendation back, and it's still at the staff level?
Exactly. We've met, when I say we, Mr. Greenway, Lauren Pluth from the Park District, again, Glenn Kinney, our supervising ranger, and myself have met, I'd say, 4 times over approximately the last year and a half. We started off looking citywide throughout our open space in terms of what trails were most feasible for improvements to be made to enhance accessibility for everybody. And we started with a list, I believe it was over 22 sites. Then we narrowed that down through the next meetings to basically a top priority list of about 5 sites. In fact, Wildwood Mesa turned out to be the highest priority because of its terrain and parking lot existing and good vehicular access and trail access. So we've actually met out there on site to look at the specific improvements that would be needed at Wildwood. Our approach was to look at the Mesa as sort of a pilot, thinking that we can make improvements there within our existing budget, with our existing staff resources and so forth, and then use that as sort of a springboard to bring a report to the Cosca board, and then use that as the beginning of a program to enhance accessibility. We have not only been looking at locations, as Mr. Greenway mentioned, but also different types of designs that are out there so that those who are in a wheelchair can get onto our trails that wouldn't be inhibited by a step over. So we're looking both at basically design issues, locational issues, and we can also look at the budget in terms of a line item and amounts. And what I'd recommend is that staff bring that report back to the board at the next meeting so that we can fully evaluate it, and we can give you a written summary of what we've done to date.
That would be, I don't know if, because this is a budget item, and I don't know in terms of Brown Act and being agendized, but I think I'd probably speak for the board is we would very much welcome that report back on a kind of a update basis, and that would be good. And then we can move forward on that, and I think that would formalize this process a little bit more for those that are a little concerned about whether this is going to go away or not. I don't think that's going to happen. I appreciate you coming in.
I believe formalization is what I'm after with what we're speaking about with a budget line item.
Right.
And also, Mark, as you look at this, don't keep it to a person who uses an assisted device. We're talking about ladies pushing wheelchairs, somebody who might just want to get out there in their Segway, if anybody in the city has Segways, and which opens up rules that
Other issue.
will be that how these will be managed, and there is some precedent set on these things, on what can be allowed on what sidewalks. Some cities do not allow Segways on sidewalks, but there is an industry, and many industries, who are looking at personal mobility devices for people who just want to use them as an alternative way of getting around. Right. A hand-powered trike, which you can go on. People have gone up logging roads, all of this. Somebody may want to develop their shoulder girdle, who can hop up and walk and carry this thing with them because it's light, but it's pedaled with your hands.
If I noticed the city attorney was kind of looking at us there, if it's appropriate for us to bring it under board director comments and ask that, I'll certainly bring it up later in the meeting if that's more appropriate.
I think that is, Director Fox. I would say that just, again, this is on a budget issue.
Yeah, not a problem.
So just a quick comment to make that direction. I think that's appropriate.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you
Mr.
for your
Greenway.
last-minute consideration.
And then in terms of budget, since the city and the Park District have already, they're actually the funders of this, and they've already approved their budgets, I'm not sure that we can actually unilaterally throw in another dollar amount at this point. That would be something to come back. I think the other thing, well, we'll talk about it in board member comments, but I was going to suggest that we consider, as part of your report, maybe grant opportunities for ADA compliance and enhancing beyond ADA. Well, we already took an action before we heard from the public. Is there anything that would cause, does the board wish to rescind its previous action and re-vote? We're okay? All right, thank you. And then our next item is acceptance, I'm sorry, let's go to item 6C, which is the board director's meeting schedule.
I just had a question on it, if I may. It seems like we always drop the July meeting. Is it better for staff, and I realize it doesn't take long to figure out it's every 2 months, that's why we have it so regular, but is it better for staff to have that July meeting in June or August? In other words, Is it to any advantage to make sure we have a meeting in between there, or is it okay to have that commonly dropped? I have no problem dropping it, but I don't want staff to be needing things approved and we can't do it.
Why don't we let staff discuss that?
As staff, we fully expect that the board will meet on each of these dates in 2008. This schedule tends to work well because it avoids August and December. August, as you know, is dark for the council and I believe your board as well. So we anticipate that we'll be meeting on July 9th.
What's the board's pleasure?
Move approval.
Any other discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Now it's the acceptance of a conservation easement over a portion of parcel 4, parcel map as listed in the agenda, which is 1,200 feet north of the terminus of Briar Bluff Circle. Mr. Town.
Thank you, Madam Chair. In late 2006, Hillside Plan Development 2002-80 was approved by the city for construction of one house on a lot of 6.82 acres located about 1,200 feet north of the terminus of Briar Bluff Circle in the Mount Clough area. A condition of this approval, condition number 41, which is contained on page 16 of your packet, requires that either a deed restriction be recorded over the northern portion of this property or that a conservation easement be entered into with Cosca. Pursuant to that condition, the property owner has agreed to enter into this conservation easement with Cosca, and this easement will preserve that northern portion of this property in a natural condition. Again, the lot is 6.82 acres in size. This natural portion would be 3.86 acres in size, so about 57% of the overall area. And what that looks like in terms of the parcel is shown on page 26 of your packet in terms of Exhibit C, which is actually part of the conservation easement, and it is illustrated on a more regional perspective, or at least community perspective, in color on page 27 of your packet. This conservation easement is very important in terms of preserving the wildlife corridor through this portion of northern Thousand Oaks. As the board is aware, the adjacent 3 parcels were purchased by the city as public open space last year with approximately $1.9 million from the city, from the Open Space Endowment Fund, as well as a grant of $500,000 from the Santa Monica Mountains Conservancy and a $100,000 grant from the Cosca board itself. So at this point, staff would recommend that the board authorize us to enter into this conservation easement to protect this area, almost 4 acres on the northern portion of this lot at HPD 2002-80. We as staff do not intend to execute and record this easement until litigation, which is currently underway affecting the underlying parcel, is completely resolved. So tonight's action would be to authorize staff to enter into this easement, but we will hold off on that actual recordation until existing litigation is wrapped up. So with that, I would be happy to answer any questions.
Questions of Mr. Town? Ms. Bill Della Pena.
Thank you. Is there a reason why the city council approval was not mentioned in the staff report, unless I missed it when I read it? It just says planning commission approval.
You missed it.
I did? Okay.
And I missed it. And I apologize for that because it was approved by the planning commission on October 9th, 2006. The council, that action was appealed to the council on November 28th, 2006. The council approved it on a 4-1 vote, and that's where we stand today. So I apologize for that omission.
Okay, then for housekeeping purposes, because of 4-1 vote, I was the one who voted against it. I will also vote against this particular authorization tonight.
Other questions of Mr. Town? Or a motion?
I'll move amended staff recommendation.
Okay. Seconded by Mr. Fox. Discussion on the motion. Hearing none. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Any abstentions? 4-1. Thank you. Go to staff reports and announcements. And Mr. Town, I understand you have a status report on the open space encroachment program.
Thank you, Madam Chair. There's not been any new cases brought to staff's attention since we last brought this to the board for your consideration and adoption of a policy regarding it. Frankly, we've been holding off a bit until the Cosca manager position was filled, and now that Ms. Ford is on board, this is going to be one of her programs. So we do anticipate progress on this, and we will keep the board informed regarding that progress.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? Mr. Jacobson.
A proposed brochure had been presented to the board for consideration, and there were several suggestions as to emphasizing certain areas within that brochure. Has that brochure been published, or has it been finalized?
Yes, it has been finalized and published. In fact, that was one of the first steps in this encroachment program, was to produce that pamphlet, which we could then mail to all adjacent property owners. And the staff will provide the board with a copy of that brochure.
And has a mailing been made to the potentially impacted property owners?
No, it has not.
To what schedule are you anticipating that distribution will be made?
I think that distribution will be made within the next probably 2 to 3 months. And I say probably that time frame because the other component of this program is the potential hiring of an outside person, a contract employee to assist with this program as previously approved by the Cosca board from your trust fund for a limited period so that we can get caught up on these encroachment cases. So I would like to have that person start work, and we need to go through that selection process. Again, now that Kristen is on board, we're positioned to really begin to take on this program.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions of Mr. Town? Ms. Austin, you have a report on the city purchase of a 2.2-acre parcel at Conejo Ridge Open Space.
This is
We're all learning how to
a new system,
For those in the audience who may not have heard us at the beginning, there's a new system here, and we're all a little bit perplexed.
New to all of us.
Our apologies.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is just an announcement, a really exciting announcement that the city has purchased a 2.2-acre parcel in the Conejo Ridge open space area. And it was purchased, and escrow closed on August 31st, 2007. The parcel is located south of the 101 freeway, adjacent to existing Cosca open space, as can be seen on Exhibit A on page 29 of your packet. And it is highly visible from the 101-23 freeway interchange, as well as from the Civic Arts Plaza. This acquisition represents another step toward protection of this highly visible and scenic area. And as you know, a concerted effort has been made over the past 20 years to protect land in this area, which now totals over 400 acres and includes a 224-acre purchase, a 140-acre donation, an 11-acre dedication, 2-acre purchase, a 16-acre purchase, and now this 2.2-acre purchase. So a lot of work has gone into preserving this area. This acquisition represents staff's ongoing effort to work with willing sellers to preserve the remaining parcels within the planned ring of open space around the city. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Austin. Any questions of Ms. Austin? And so this was a City of Thousand Oaks purchase?
Correct.
Thank you, council members Fox and Bill Pena. Go ahead.
It's refreshing to see that there is still affordable open space that can be acquired. When I think about, the amount of money we spent on the Mount Clef area, which needed to be done, it's refreshing to see that, there are parcels of lesser value. Thank you.
Committee reports. This is our fun time where we have the report from the Caney Open Space Trails Advisory Committee. And I think Ms. Brown, Elizabeth Brown, you're first up.
Good evening. Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Board, for giving us the opportunity to share a little bit about what's going on with COSTAC here in the city. I'm just going to speak briefly and then turn this over to another COSTAC member, Jenny Bowers, who will be talking about our upcoming Trail Workday. But before that, I want to add 2 dates to your calendar. We are continuing our Trailhead outreach this fall, and we have 2 dates where we'll be going out to the Wildwood area and providing an outreach table with maps and information to trail users. And those will be on Saturday, September 29th, and we're going to try also a Sunday, October 7th. We're finding that those are very high usage days, and so we're hoping to reach trail users on those days. And so we will hopefully have a report for you after that happens later in the fall or winter. And this time, I'd like to introduce Jenny Bowers, who will speak to you too.
Hi, Jenny Bowers, Newberry Park, Trail Workday event coordinator. We are in our 18th year of Trail Workdays, and every year we try to get more and more people to attend. And this year it is October 13th, which is a Saturday. It's at the down by the Botanical Gardens. You just drive down Gainesboro and take the drive that you take to the Botanical Gardens and park down there. And registration starts 7:30 to 8 o'clock. And 8 o'clock to noon are the work parties. We bus you to different areas that are in need of repair. There's rangers and trail leaders that go to help you and guide you on all these areas. After that, there's a free barbecue, which is sponsored this year again for about the 4th year from Carlson Building Materials. There'll be an Elks barbecue. And Bill's Bike in Camarillo has got a cute little bunny. It's not on your flyer, but it fits right in with the Caneo. He's also donated a bicycle, and we will be giving that away to one of the participants. And we've already got some scout groups signed up, and we need a lot of people. We'd like to see about 200 people down there. We give you a sack breakfast before you, while you're on the bus, and send you on your way. And it's just a nice way to put into the community, help our rangers out a little bit, but it's also a real fun time too. Any questions? Yes.
Questions? Mr. Berger.
Do you have a couple of those posters I might take with me?
I do.
Okay. Because I'm going to, our Rotary Club has an Interact Club at Newberry Park High School, and
Okay.
I'll put one in my office, and then if you give me some of the regular green flyers, I'll hand those out to a high school service group.
Great, yeah, great.
It's a fantastic service that the COSTAC committee provides to our trails and the community, and it is a really fun day.
It is.
So hope we'll see everybody out there. Mr. Berger?
Yes. Who complained about the cooking previously? I mean, I'm very disappointed that I no longer get to provide indigestion for the afternoon.
Well, that can probably be changed in the future.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much, Ms. Brown and Ms. Bowers. Any board member comments and reports?
I've made too many already.
Okay. Mr. Fox.
I just want to follow up on the accessibility issue for the open space area and ask that report be brought back to Cosca by staff at the next Cosca meeting, outlining what steps have been made in that area.
Thank you. Ms. Bill
And please correct me if I'm wrong. Isn't the state or is the SMMC, the Santa Monica Mountains Conservancy, already looking at ADA improvements?
Yes, at all new parks incorporate that, and then in particular at Lechuza Beach in Malibu.
So perhaps we could work with state parks and the SMMC for any advice that they may have.
In fact, state parks has a very well-established program now.
Thank you.
Thank you. Very good point. Any other board member comments? Hearing none, we're adjourned until our next meeting, which is November 14th. Thank you all very much. And thank you, Shelley and Mark.